You're standing in your kitchen at 7 in the morning. A column of ants is already moving across the counter. Meanwhile, cockroaches are behind the refrigerator, and bed bugs are somewhere you don't know about yet, but soon will. You call an exterminator. He shows up, sprays something from a canister for $200, and says, "See you in 3 months," because his chemicals kill what's there right now, but not the colony. Almost this entire industry runs on a single principle: the solution must not be permanent. But there are 3 methods, each with a different mechanism of action against different insects, that agronomists, organic farms, and food manufacturers have been using for decades. None of them costs more than $10. Insects cannot hear. They see poorly, but chemical signals in the air are their language, their GPS, and their early warning system all at once. And certain plants have been producing volatile compounds for millions of years for exactly this purpose: to speak that language and say, "Danger here, go around." Here is what happens to an ant specifically. A worker does not move at random. It follows a pheromone trail left by a scout. This is a chemical roadmap, the precise route from the nest to the food. Peppermint oil contains menthol and pelargone, compounds that, at concentrations above 2%, block octopamine receptors in the ant's antennae. Octopamine is the ant's neurotransmitter, the equivalent of adrenaline in humans, responsible for spatial orientation. When the receptors are blocked, the ant physically cannot read the pheromone trail. It stops. It becomes disoriented. The column that was heading toward your kitchen falls apart, not because the ants were frightened, but because their GPS switched off. If the concentration is high enough, at direct contact with a surface treated with pure peppermint oil, the ant dies from neurotoxic exposure within 10 to 20 minutes. Moths are a different story. The clothes moth Tiniola basileella navigates using olfactory receptors on its antennae tuned to the scent of keratin, the protein in wool, silk, and feathers. Cedarwood oil contains cedrol and thujopsine, which mask the scent of keratin and render your sweaters effectively invisible to the moth. This is not a poison, it is chemical camouflage. The moth does not die, but it does not lay eggs where it cannot detect food. A few drops of cedarwood oil on a cotton ball in a wardrobe protects woolen garments more effectively than mothballs, and without the toxic smell that takes a week of airing out to get rid of. Ticks are another example. The deer tick Ixodes scapularis locates a host by detecting CO2 and heat, but pheromones play a role in selecting an ambush position. Studies show that a mixture of lavender and cedarwood oil reduces tick activity on treated surfaces by 68 to 90%, depending on concentration. In the 1980s, researchers at the University of Florida documented the repellent properties of essential oils against Solenopsis invicta, fire ants. Organic farming adopted the method, and then silence on the consumer market. Methods that generate no recurring revenue rarely attract advertising budgets. The repellent market in the U.S. is worth $3 billion a year. A bottle of peppermint oil at Target is $8. The ultrasonic repellers on the shelf beside it are $30, and the FTC warned back in 2001 that there was no evidence they worked. But to be honest about the limits, essential oils are a barrier, not a destroyer. They will not kill a colony inside a wall. After rain or cleaning, reapplication is needed every 5 to 7 days. Against cockroaches, the effect is weaker than against ants and moths. This is why they work best as regular prevention rather than a one-time fix. Here is a simple approach you can apply tonight in 15 minutes. 15 drops of peppermint oil and 10 drops of cedarwood oil in 2 cups of water in a $3 spray bottle from Dollar Tree. Window sills, door thresholds, gaps around pipes. For an external barrier, 30 drops per cup of water along the foundation line. Cedarwood oil on a cotton ball in the corners of wardrobes. $10 a month against $200 at the first sign of a problem you can prevent from arising. But if a few insects do make it past the barrier, something older than the dinosaurs is waiting for them. Picture glass. Ground down to the size of dust, so fine it feels like flour to the touch. Under a microscope, every particle of diatomaceous earth is a fossilized skeleton of a single-celled algae with sharp, jagged edges. To a human palm, a soft powder. To an insect with an exoskeleton, a field of broken glass. Here is what happens to a cockroach. Blatella germanica, the common kitchen cockroach, has an exoskeleton coated with a waxy cuticle approximately 0.1 to 0.3 micrometers thick. This cuticle is its only barrier against moisture loss. When a cockroach passes through a layer of diatomaceous earth, particles measuring 10 to 200 micrometers adhere to its legs and abdomen. As it moves, they act like sandpaper, physically abrading the waxy coating at dozens of points simultaneously. Through the resulting microperforations, the cockroach begins losing water at a rate its body cannot compensate for. At room temperature of 72 degrees Fahrenheit and humidity below 50%, a medium-sized cockroach dies from dehydration within 12 to 24 hours. Raising the temperature to 85 degrees Fahrenheit accelerates the process to 6 to 8 hours. And no genetic mutation can help. You cannot evolve your way out of being physically cut. With the bedbug Cymex lectularius, the situation is different. The bug is smaller and its cuticle thinner, but it makes far less contact with the floor. It moves primarily on vertical surfaces, along the bed frame, along the seam of a mattress, along an electrical cable. For bedbugs, it is therefore essential to apply diatomaceous earth precisely there. Mattress seams, the base of the bed frame, baseboards near the sleeping area. A bug that has passed over a treated surface carries the particles on its body and continues abrading its cuticle for 24 to 48 hours after contact. A 1989 study in the Journal of Economic Entomology, Volume 82, Issue 4, showed 100% bedbug mortality within 48 hours, compared to 72 to 89% for chemical insecticides that also required repeated applications due to resistance. Fleas are the third target. Tinocephalides felis, the cat flea, spends most of its life cycle not on the animal, but in carpet, bedding, and floor crevices. This is where diatomaceous earth is most effective. Spread into carpet and worked in with a brush, it contacts pupae and adult fleas for weeks at a time. It does not destroy eggs, and this is an important limitation. Full coverage of all life stages requires 2 to 3 weeks of treatment. In 1965, the USDA Pest Management Manual described an external perimeter technique. 5 pounds of powder around a building's foundation twice a year. In the mid-1970s, the manual was replaced by new guides emphasizing chemical treatments. To be clear, this was not a conspiracy. The new chemicals were effective, patented, and sold through licensed specialists. Ground algae flour was none of those things. That said, this does not make it useless. It simply means understanding its real capabilities and limits. At humidity above 60%, the powder clumps. It does not destroy eggs. It has no effect on flying insects without surface contact. A 10-pound bag of food-grade diatomaceous earth at Walmart is $8. A hand duster at Home Depot is $12. 20 minutes of work, a thin layer along baseboards, behind the refrigerator, under the sink. Thin, because a thick pile a cockroach will simply walk around. In spring and autumn, 5 pounds around the perimeter of the foundation. $10 a year against a $600 quarterly contract. But diatomaceous earth kills those who walk through it. A colony of tens of thousands inside a wall is a different problem entirely. For that, you need a poison that travels. Boric acid is not a synthetic chemical. It is a mineral. It forms naturally in evaporite deposits, places where salt lakes once existed. A white powder, completely innocuous in appearance. And it is precisely this innocuousness that makes it the most powerful method against social insects. Here is what happens to an ant colony. Lasius niger, the black garden ant, the most common household species in the U.S., lives in colonies of between 5,000 and 15,000 individuals. When a worker ant consumes boric acid at the right dose, 1% of food mass, it does not die immediately. The boric acid enters the midgut, where it disrupts digestive enzymes and damages the epithelial lining. The process takes 24 to 72 hours. During this time, the ant returns to the nest and participates in trophallaxis, mutual feeding, in which individuals pass liquid food to one another mouth to mouth. This is the foundation of the colony's social organization. One poisoned ant directly feeds 5 to 10 neighbors. Each of them feeds another 5 to 10. By the mathematics of network propagation, within 48 hours the poison has reached hundreds of individuals, including larvae and the queen. Without a queen, the colony cannot survive. The complete elimination cycle takes 1 to 2 weeks. With cockroaches, the mechanism is similar but has a distinction. Blatella germanica is not a social insect in the same sense, but it lives in aggregations and transfers substances through contact via grooming and shared feeding. A cockroach that has consumed boric acid bait carries it in its body and on its exterior. Other cockroaches making contact with it, or with its droppings, receive a dose as well. The propagation effect is slower than in ants, but a 2013 study in the Journal of Pest Science showed 95 to 98% population elimination of cockroaches within 14 days when gel baits were correctly positioned. Dosage is critical. If the concentration of boric acid in the bait exceeds 2%, the insect detects bitterness and avoids the food. If it falls below 0.5%, the poisoning is too slow and the insect does not carry enough back to the colony. The optimum is 1 to 1.5%. This is precisely why homemade recipes sometimes fail. People add more to be safe, and the insects simply avoid the bait. Entomologist Lord N. Cornwall of the University of California, Berkeley, published work on the effectiveness of boric acid against cockroaches in the 1960s. Organic farms use it to this day. In the 1970s, with the mass arrival of organochlorine pesticides, boric acid disappeared from consumer recommendations, not because it had become less effective, but because the new chemicals were sold through licensed specialists. Simply the economics of distribution channels. Borax, boric acid in the form of its sodium salt, still sits on the shelf at Walmart in the laundry section. 76 ounces for $5 to $6, 20 Mule Team brand. Next to it, a cockroach chemical treatment for $150 to $300 with a 30-day guarantee. This was displaced by a model in which a permanent solution is the worst possible business outcome. One caution: this is dangerous for pets if directly ingested. Place it only in inaccessible locations. It is ineffective against bed bugs. They do not live in colonies and have no trophallaxis. Overdosing in bait destroys the effect. With those limits in mind, ant bait, 1 cup of warm water, 1½ tablespoons of sugar, a 1/4 teaspoon of borax. Cotton balls in containers with small holes, placed where you have seen activity. Replace after 3 days. For cockroaches, borax, flour, and powdered sugar at 1 to 1 to 1, formed into pea-sized balls, behind the refrigerator, under the sink, in the corners of cabinets. Within 14 days, the colony is finished. $6 against $250 for a single exterminator visit. There are situations where boric acid is not appropriate. In those cases, there is a method for which everything you need is already in your kitchen right now. Baking soda is sodium bicarbonate, NaHCO3. In the human stomach, it is neutral because we produce acid that breaks it down in a controlled way. But the digestive system of an ant or a cockroach works differently. Insects cannot belch. They have no pressure release mechanism. When an ant consumes a mixture of baking soda and sugar, the soda enters the midgut and reacts with the natural digestive acids there. The reaction releases CO2. The gas has nowhere to go. The internal pressure ruptures the cells of the intestinal epithelium, and the ant dies from internal damage within 12 to 48 hours. It is the chemistry of the insect's own body turned against it. Sugar masks the soda. The insect detects no bitterness and eats the mixture as it would normal food. The ratio is critical. Equal parts powdered sugar and baking soda, 1:1. The method works best on ants and cockroaches. On bed bugs, not at all. Bed bugs feed exclusively on blood and do not consume bait. On fleas, the same reason. In practice, mix equal parts powdered sugar and baking soda, 2 tablespoons of each. Pour into small bottle caps and place them where you have seen activity. Set a small container of water nearby. After consuming the soda, insects seek water, and this accelerates the reaction. Replace every 3 to 4 days as the mixture absorbs moisture and clumps. Total cost, under $1. Baking soda is 50 cents a box at any grocery store. Powdered sugar is in almost every home already. This is not the most powerful of the 4 methods. It does not eliminate a colony as quickly as boric acid, and it does not work across as broad a range of insects as diatomaceous earth. But it is completely safe for children and animals, requires no purchase whatsoever, and works tonight.